So I got an interesting email from another student who wanted some clarification based on the copyright video that I made a couple days ago. If you didn't watch it, go back and take a look. I basically explain how a copyright is created, who creates it, what are the requirements to get a copyright, et cetera, et cetera. But he had a good question about the so-called poor man's copyright. Now, if you don't know what that is, it's basically when you, let's say you recorded a CD, you go to the post office, you get a certified letter, you get it stamped and dated for a certain date, and then you mail it to yourself and you just simply never open it. So it's this sort of quote unquote poor man's way of making sure you get a government document showing that you have created this album or this song or whatever it is you're sending to yourself. It could also just be lyrics and a melodic idea written out on a piece of paper you've mailed to yourself. And a lot of musicians, for decades have done this, believing that that is sort of their copyright and legal protection in a potential lawsuit that comes in the future. So the student, he emailed me, he said, want to know, Jesse, what's the deal with these poor man's legal copyright processes? Do they work? Or is it all bogus? Does it even hold up in court? What's the deal? Well, the best way to answer that is to explain to you that when it comes to a lawsuit, like a copyright lawsuit, somebody's suing you or you're suing them, in any lawsuit actually, doesn't matter what court you're in, evidence is always going to be brought on both sides of the case, the prosecution and the defense. So, and then really who wins in the end is whoever has the strongest case built on the strongest evidence. So if you do mail yourself a CD that you've recorded and created, it is a form of evidence if you were to ever bring that into a court of law in a copyright lawsuit. So it absolutely can be presented. The question is it as strong as, let's say, the Library of Congress sending you a letter saying, hey, we've received your 12 songs, here's what their title is or their collective title is, you've paid your fee, we have it all categorized, we have it cataloged in our system, and here's your receipt from the government saying you've registered your songs basically with us. Also, if you've registered your songs with BMI or with ASCAP, that's also another form of proof of evidence that these songs were created by you, that you've registered them, et cetera, et cetera. So can it be used like the poor man's copyright if you had a letter just sitting around with your name on it mailed to yourself that's been certified, mailed, and stamped? Is that a form of evidence? Absolutely it is. Is it as strong as the Library of Congress giving you their receipt saying that you've registered with them? No, it's not as strong as that, okay? So it is sort of like a yes and no answer. It can be used, but it's not the strongest form of evidence. But beyond all of that, I don't want this to get into a sort of like legal discussion about, I certainly didn't start this YouTube channel or my course to get into the nitty-gritty fine details of the law and evidence types and, the strength of an argument case in a copyright lawsuit. These are not the things I want to occupy my mind with. And I know you as a music producer don't want to worry about this stuff either. You just want to protect yourself, get out there and produce a lot of great music and move forward. So in sort of a 10,000 foot, zoom out view of what we're talking about here, just remember that I've been in this business almost 10 years and I've never had a copyright claim against me. I've never had to make a copyright claim against somebody else. It's just a much more rare thing that doesn't happen as often in the TV film business as it would in the radio iTunes world, where you're selling directly to consumers who can easily steal your music, and other artists are ripping off other songwriters and trying to use other melodies of other people. So there's a lot more of that going on in the sort of pop, consumer world of music. But in the TV film licensing world, it's a much smaller community of people you're sending your music to. You're literally sending it to a few libraries, and those libraries have either like an exclusive hold on those tracks or they have a non-exclusive hold on those tracks. And so your tracks could be in multiple different ones. But really, you're only selling and marketing to music supervisors, editors, professionals in the industry. And the chances of those guys ripping your music off or saying like, I love that melody, I'm going to give this song to my kid and he's going to make a pop song out of it. It's possible. I mean, everything's possible, right? But it's very unlikely. And again, my whole point of view on especially the TV film side of things is you should be focusing on cranking out awesome new music every single week. You shouldn't be so worried about well, what if somebody steals from me, and what if this? If your mindset is in the sort of fear base where you're just worried that somebody's going to rip you off at every corner, well, then you're not reaching your full potential in this industry. You should be focusing on, how do I make my songs better? How do I incorporate a new genre into the genre that I'm already comfortable with? How do I create a hybrid track of really, some 2 or 3 different really cool genres, combine them in a unique way where only or I'm one of the few in the business that can actually pull that off successfully. So rather than worrying about losing something or getting involved in a lawsuit, worry about improving your craft and making your music stronger, because guess what? Each one of your tracks, like, yes, there's a chance that somebody could rip it off or something legal could happen and it can actually mess with your career in a significant way. But if you're so worried about one song that you're neglecting putting out like 3 new tracks this week, well, then you're losing sight of the whole, at least my whole philosophy in this business, which is it's a numbers game, right? You improve your craft, you keep making tracks, and you basically grow your catalog to the point that if you come across a legal problem down the road, something happens and you have to either fight it or whatever, it's one track among, hundreds, maybe thousands of songs that you have out there in the system competing, getting you placements, right? So let's go to the bigger picture on this legal stuff and not get too weighed down in protecting ourselves and all that kind of stuff. And it's so, and I don't want to harp on somebody who hasn't maybe earned royalties yet or even made a lot of money with their music yet, but I find a lot of these questions from people who haven't really made $1 really, or made at least enough money to quit their day job, and they're worried so much about, like, what if somebody steals my music? It's like, dude, you haven't even made enough money to pay your utility bill yet. So this is not something, I understand it is smart to be ahead of yourself in terms of making sure you're going to protect yourself down the line. But that's not your biggest problem right now. It's worrying about a copyright lawsuit, resulting in millions of dollars being stolen from you. Because if you haven't made any money yet, or at least enough to quit your day job, then why is this your primary concern? Your primary concern should be, are my tracks licensable? Are my tracks good enough to get placed on TV shows? What can I do to improve my song? Should I get new samples? Should I invest in some new plugins? Should I just learn how to use plugins better than I already have? Okay, so this is a long ramble, but hopefully you're getting what I'm saying here, that don't get so bogged down in the details of the legal crap, and focus more on just being a better producer, a better musician. And you'll find in the long run, small legal disputes that may come your way. Again, 10 years in this industry, I've never had one. But if you do come across them, you'll have so many awesome things going on in your career that it can be dealt with quickly, swiftly. It's not going to set you back any, and it's not going to be a huge issue for you in the long run, in the big scheme of your career. So I hope that helps answer the question about the poor man's copyright method that people use.